The Vancouver Titans have finally made their move and announced their new roster. Along with that, earlier today, Stratus announced that he would be stepping down as a player from the Washington Justice. More on Stratus in a little bit. For now, we're going to talk about the main event. Let's break down the Titans' new roster, which is only 6 players, by the way. In a hype video, it was revealed that the 6 players joining the brand new Vancouver Titans squad would be Dalton, Suna, Ksaa, I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce that, Shredlock, Karkar, and Rolf. Honestly, this roster isn't too bad. It doesn't knock your socks off or anything, and it's not going to be anything like the old Vancouver Titans, that much is for sure, but it has potential. Guys like Dalton and Karkar have been Overwatch League caliber for a while now, I believe, and I think they're going to do great, and they'll serve as a good core for this new Titans team. Dalton, I've already been praising him a lot in previous videos, but I think the guy is a genius. He's a really good hit scan player. He's been doing it for a while now on teams like Gladiators Legion and Second Wind. He's amazing. He can play your Reaper, your Tracer, Widow, whatever you need. He will pop off and carry your team to victory. As for Karkar, I know a lot of people have been waiting for this guy to become old enough to join the league, as he's always been a pretty consistent main support player throughout his career, and he's been grinding for a while now. He started off in Open Division, then eventually made a name for himself, and then most famously played for Fusion University, and now he's finally here, and I'm really happy for him. The other person I at least kind of know on this roster is Rolf. As I mentioned in the previous video, I remember him playing back in the 2017 World Cup for Team Canada. He was pretty decent back then, and I think even to this day he is still good, even after 2 years of being stuck in contenders for teams like Gladiators Legion and Second Wind most recently. If he can play consistently enough, then I believe Rolf could be like an average or, mid-table tier type of flex support player in the league. I've always liked his Zenyatta and his Ana, so I'm very curious to see how he can do in the Overwatch League now. Speaking of Canadians, let's talk about the second one joining this Vancouver roster, Shredlock. Unlike his counterpart, Shredlock is more of an up-and-coming player, as he's only been around in the contender scene since August of 2019, so it hasn't even been a year since he joined Second Wind. He's never really played in any major tournaments except for some of the most recent stuff going on in contenders, but some people will tell you that he's shown promise. He's shown a little bit of everything throughout his career so far, but a lot of people tend to think that his Winston is his best hero. I personally wouldn't really know because I haven't watched him all too much, but based off of what I've heard, it's his Winston that people tend to talk about. While this certainly can't apply to every other position, I for one believe that main tank is one of those positions in the league where you have a lot of raw players. They definitely have a lot of potential, they have a good ceiling, but it's not exactly easy to unlock that full potential. A good example of this can be Roar from the Washington Justice. Last year on the Gladiators, I think he played below a lot of people's expectations, and even on the Justice this year, he hasn't been doing all that much, and he's been pretty average at best. But back when he played on Kongdu Panthera, that wasn't the case. He was an absolute beast, and everybody was so excited to see him join the league. Now, I'm not saying this is the guaranteed fate of Shredlock, because for all I know, he could be really good right from day one, but that's just how I tend to feel about young main tank players. It takes time to groom them sometimes. Now let's talk about his partner in crime at the off-tank position, Ksaa. This is a pretty awesome day because he is the first Saudi Arabian player to join the Overwatch League. While I don't know what he's capable of on a hero like Diva, let's say, I do know that he did show promise on Sigma in the 2019 World Cup preliminaries on Team Saudi Arabia, as they even were able to take a map off of the Netherlands. That's pretty impressive considering the fact that the Netherlands made it out of the group stage and that Saudi Arabia were kind of just a bunch of nobodies during that tournament for most people. Upon doing further research about his history, I found that he's been grinding in EU contenders for about a year now, as he's played for teams like Young and Beautiful and Raspberry Racers, who are both currently participating in this season of EU contenders. This guy's been around the block. He has a lot of experience. Vancouver might have found something with this guy. He has some serious potential, and if he's groomed correctly, just like his partner in crime Shredlock, then they could make for a pretty decent tank duo. And lastly, to wrap up the roster, let's talk about Suna, who is a French DPS player who has played for a bunch of different EU teams like Young and Beautiful, British Hurricane, and Eternal Academy. Him and Dalton could make for a nice 1-2 punch where both of them just take turns popping off basically. But what's interesting is that he has a very similar hero pool to Dalton. Could this end up being a problem? Yeah, sure, but probably later down the line, as we've seen a good amount of double hit scan when May's not being played, and I'm sure one of these two could pick up May if they need to. For the time being, I'm not concerned about this, but if the meta were to ever call for more projectile heroes, then things get a lot more interesting. So that's what the roster's looking like. I know it's nothing glamorous and it's only 6 people, but what do you guys think? I personally don't think it's too bad. It's actually better than I thought it would be. I know these guys are a pretty tiny team and only some of these guys have previous synergy with one another, but If synergy proves to not be too much of an issue, then I think right from day one they could at least be better than Boston and the Justice. Whether they can beat anybody else would be up for debate, but you never know. If any of you out there are still Vancouver fans, just give this roster a chance. Trust me, I had to do the same thing with the Valiant after they basically betrayed me by getting rid of everybody, but I've learned to like this new team, and I'm sure you guys could do the same. Give them the chance, and they could end up surpassing your expectations. That's all I'll say, and we'll move on to Stratus now. So earlier today, the Justice announced that Stratus would be stepping down as a player from the Justice, but he'll still be on the team, and he'll be looking to become a content creator. Before that though, Stratus wants to play one more game this weekend against the Vancouver Titans. He said so in a tweet that kind of made me want to tear up when he said, "The tears and twitlongers come after the match, but I want to put on one final show for you all." Good on Stratus for saying something like this, giving his fans one last moment to celebrate him being a part of this roster. I know today has been hard if you're a Justice fan, but getting some closure has to feel at least a little bit nice. And speaking of all this stuff that has happened today, I'm really sorry for any of my Washington fans watching this video. This has to really hurt. Losing both Stratus and Corey in the same day has to feel like just getting stabbed in the heart, basically. This was the heart and soul of your team, and now they're both gone in the same day. That dynamic is something we will never see again, probably, in this league. Those two were such a great pair. Even though they weren't always playing together on stage, just watching them together, interacting with each other, it was always so amazing and positive. They're arguably the two most positive players we've ever had in the league besides like Mickey and Gamsu. Although his career has been short, I have fond memories of Stratus and all the crazy onstage antics he's had, as well as the success the Justice found in Stage 4 using his powerful Mei. Stratus is a great dude, and I'm really sad to see him leave as a player, but at least he'll be sticking around and making other content for us to enjoy, and I know he's going to knock that role out of the park. Let's be honest, the guy is so entertaining. He's a walking meme. Whatever he makes, I'm sure it's going to be so amazing to watch, and I'm very excited to see what he produces. I'm very happy for Stratus, but at the same time, I'm super sad to see him leave so soon just because he didn't play nearly enough in my opinion. He's always had decent potential, but he hasn't played enough to truly show it. It really is too bad, but now he doesn't have to worry about losing all the time anymore. He can finally just step away from that and do something that he enjoys more, just like with Corey. Other than this affecting the Justice from an emotional standpoint, we also have to talk about their roster because after this weekend, they're only going to have 5 players, so they're going to be picking up a new DPS player at some point next week, I'd assume. Who it will be is a total mystery for me right now, as I don't have any inside sources for that type of stuff. But if I had to take a guess, they will likely be searching for a new hit scan prospect since Tuba can be their flex player. Even without Corey and Stratus, it's not like the Justice were doing all that well with them, so it's hard to imagine they decline all that much because they weren't really winning anyway. For the sake of all Justice fans, I pray that whoever they sign ends up being amazing. I feel for you guys. You've been suffering a lot since the Justice became a thing back during 2019. There's been a lot of losing, and other than Corey and Stratus being super positive and that one good stage in 2019, it's been all suffering really, and it's only gotten worse now that you've lost 2 of your fan favorites. Good luck to both the Justice and Stratus in his new journey. Hopefully good fortune smiles upon both of them. And with that said, this is going to wrap up my 3rd video of the day. I can't believe I've triple uploaded. I've never done that before in the history of my channel. That's a first. Because I work so hard, it would mean so much to me if you could hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to let me know what you think of the Vancouver Titans new roster, as well as Stratus retiring down in the comments section. And as always, thanks so much for watching today's video. I really do appreciate it, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.